So, this submitted material is a transcript of a live, politically and religiously charged broadcast aimed at dissecting the changing ideologies of J.D. Vance and Tucker Carlson, specifically exploring their foreign policy stances and shifting alliances. But jumping right in, the narrative momentum of the piece is frequently derailed by disproportionate tangents that distract from the primary geopolitical arguments.
Yeah, that was the very first thing that jumped out to me, too. I mean, the material introduces these genuinely significant, really high-stakes political claims.
Right. Like the IRGC stuff?
Exactly. Vance's failed negotiations with the IRGC, and then the claim that he blamed an Israeli-funded lobbying campaign for it. But then it buries those massive revelations under these lengthy, totally unrelated detours.
Yeah, it's wild. Reading it feels kind of like a courtroom prosecutor who just pauses a high-stakes treason trial to suddenly critique the defendant's choice of podcast hosts.
That is the perfect analogy.
I mean, it totally distracts the jury from the actual evidence, like that collapsed Iran MOU.
Right, because you have this extended commentary diagnosing the comedian Theo Von's diet and, like, his mental state.
Oh, right.
And it just goes on for minutes. And then later there's this whole section on the real-time logistics of running a yay or nay chat poll. It completely stalls the momentum. The audience just loses sight of the central geopolitical arguments because the focus wanders way too far from the core thesis.
So what's the fix here? Just cut it all out?
Basically, yeah. I mean, my suggestion is to streamline the evidence to focus exclusively on points that directly build the case of political inconsistency and untrustworthiness. You have to condense or just cut that observational commentary that doesn't serve the core thesis.
Right. So for concrete examples, instead of spending minutes speculating on, Theo Von's sobriety or if he has a good heart, you just quickly mention Vance's endorsement of him as a fleeting example.
Exactly. Just a quick data point of a shifting populist branding. Bam, move on.
And then you group the substantive political critiques into a tight sequential timeline that actually demonstrates his ideological morphing.
Yes, stack them up. Take Vance ignoring Nick Fuentes' insults toward his wife, then go straight into the hiring of Buckley Carlson while ignoring Sloan's questions, then hit the Yale Federalist Society quotes praising Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren.
And then boom, the failed IRGC negotiations.
Exactly. You put them in a sequence and it becomes this overwhelming wave of evidence.
What about the live poll stuff, though? I mean, streamers kind of need that for engagement.
You keep the interactive elements like the live poll, sure. But you execute them in the background. You just keep narrating the geopolitical stakes while the chat does its thing, ensuring the broadcast momentum never stops.
Right. Yeah, that makes total sense. So, moving on, once the structural tangents are trimmed to focus on the core evidence, I think the next step is ensuring the language used to deliver that evidence actually matches the gravity of the creator's goals.
Right.
Because, the frequent use of superficial ad hominem attacks conflicts with the overarching goal of establishing a serious, morally grounded critique.
Oh, absolutely. This was a huge friction. The script clearly aims to present a credible, historically informed case about profound global threats, like communism and jihadism.
Yeah, and it's heavily grounded in a values-based perspective.
Right, but then it relies so heavily on juvenile name-calling, like dubbing the subject JD Trans or claiming Tucker Carlson has athlete's foot breath.
The breath joke, yeah.
Or mocking the Dodgy Haji twins. This rhetorical style just severely undercuts the creator's authority. It completely contradicts the serious, biblical rights ethos they are trying to project.
It makes it way too easy for critics to just dismiss the legitimate policy arguments, right? But okay, let me push back slightly here.
Sure.
Is there a risk that removing all that edgy, insult-driven humor might alienate the specific live stream audience? Like, the people who tune in precisely for that raw, highly colloquial energy.
I hear that, but my suggestion for improvement is that you have to elevate the rhetorical delivery to match the severity of the political and spiritual claims being made.
Right.
You can still be raw, but you allow the subject's own contradictory actions and statements to carry the weight of the condemnation, rather than relying on invented insults.
Okay, give me some concrete examples of how they'd actually do that in the script.
Well, take the JD Trans thing. Instead of repeatedly using that moniker to mock his shifting alliances, use his literal history of changing his actual name.
Oh, that's good.
Right. Combine that with his pivot from a never-Trumper to a VP candidate. That serves as clinical, undeniable evidence of political opportunism. It's so much more devastating than a childish nickname.
Yeah, it hits way harder. And for the Tucker Carlson part?
Rather than insulting his breath or, comparing him to a salty ex, focus the critique entirely on the juxtaposition of his leaked 2021 text messages expressing disdain for Trump against his current public sycophancy.
Oh, wow. Yeah, just holding up the mirror.
Exact. And when discussing foreign influence, just drop the sarcasm. Lay out the exact contrast the material identifies. Vance's willingness to condemn Israeli lobbying money while allegedly remaining entirely silent on Qatari and Pakistani financial influence in American institutions.
Right, just state it as a brutal fact. You don't need a joke to dress that up.
You really don't. The facts are damning.
So with a streamlined structure and a more authoritative tone in place, I feel like the final step is to take the most original concept in the material and use it to anchor the entire piece from the very beginning.
Yes, the framework.
Because right now, the compelling conceptual framework contrasting the woke right with the biblical right is introduced far too late in the material to effectively anchor the listener's understanding.
Way too late. It's honestly the most original and powerful analytical lens offered in the entire piece.
Definitely. To quickly summarize for context, the text describes the woke right as opportunistic, fake conservatives who use Israel as a scapegoat, and then the biblical right is described as consistent, values-based, and historically aware.
Right. It's a brilliant dynamic, but this framework doesn't appear until, the final third of the broadcast.
Yeah, which is crazy.
By delaying this concept, the audience is left without a clear thematic compass to navigate all the earlier stuff. They just get this seemingly disconnected list of grievances about Vance, Carlson, and foreign policy.
Okay, but let me ask you, does the source material actually provide enough historical evidence to fully support this really ambitious ideological framework right up front? I saw the references to the 1979 Iranian Revolution and South American communism, but is it enough?
I genuinely think it is. My suggestion is to restructure the opening of the presentation to explicitly define these two opposing factions immediately. You use this dynamic as the foundational lens through which every subsequent piece of evidence is analyzed.
So you just start with it right out of the gate?
Exactly. A concrete example. Open the broadcast by defining the biblical right versus the woke right. Explain exactly what those terms mean in the context of today's political landscape.
And then how does that reframe the earlier points, like the Nick Fuentes thing?
Well, suddenly you frame Vance's initial failure to defend his wife against Nick Fuentes, not just as a personal fail. It becomes a primary symptom of the woke right mentality, where ambition supersedes values.
Oh, I see. It turns a piece of gossip into a structural argument.
Yes, and you use the framework to introduce the segment on foreign policy, too. You explicitly state that the biblical right views the IRGC and global communism as the true threats.
Right, which justifies bringing in those 1979 and South American historical points early on.
Exactly. While the woke right, on the other hand, attempts to distract voters by scapegoating a single ally. Doing it this way gives the audience a clear why for every single topic introduced.
It really is like giving them the map before they enter the maze. It makes so much more sense.
It completely transforms the piece.
All right, well, to quickly recap our main actionable takeaways for this critique. First, you've got to streamline those structural tangents, like the comedian critiques and the live poll, to maintain narrative momentum.
Right, don't let the audience forget the high stakes.
Second, elevate the rhetorical tone by dropping the juvenile ad hominems so the language matches the seriousness of the geopolitical claims.
Let the hypocrisy speak for itself.
Exact. And finally, front-load that brilliant woke right versus biblical right framework to give the entire piece a cohesive thematic anchor right from minute one.
Yeah, install the operating system before you run the software.
Perfectly said. We really invite the listener to revise their broadcast script using these suggestions and submit it back to the critique for further review. We'd love to see the next draft.
Absolutely. Can't wait to see it.